Welcome back to Studio 5. Parenting experts have told us for years that spanking is bad.
It's a subject Julie Hanks is passionate about. So if we know spanking is bad, we've been hearing that over and over for many, many years, why are parents still doing it?
You know, isn't it shocking that most parents still spank or think it's okay or necessary, especially with toddlers? And I say no. There is no reason to spank. It kills me when people say, well, I deserved it. Would you ever say that about, you know, your spouse? Well, I deserved him to hit me. I deserved to be pushed against the wall. Physical punishment is never okay. And that's the message in this. Never is it okay. And there's some new research that links spanking and physical punishment of all kinds to mental health disorders later on in life.
So it's not just a physical harm, it's a mental harm.
Right, and our physical experiences actually impact our brain too. And so why would you do something that would potentially increase the likelihood of your child having depression, anxiety, substance abuse? There's tons of research that is against corporal punishment.
And what was interesting to me as I read over this research this morning, and you've obviously dived into it more in depth, but it specifically pointed out that it's not just, it's the spanking they're isolating. It's not any other form of negative behaviors, any other abuse, any other behaviors like that, but just the spanking can produce these negative consequences.
It's spanking and physical punishment. So in this new research, they took out, like if you were sexually abused, emotionally abused, neglected, they took all of that out of the equation, and what was left was the physical punishment, and that there was a higher likelihood of emotional problems.
We were talking a little bit before and during the commercial break. I don't know, were you ever swatted when you were a child?
Wooden spoon, there was
yeah,
one.
Yeah, we had a wooden
remember
spoon.
That. And then as we grew up and we've had children, I remember once or twice spanking a child, and I can still remember it and feeling horrible for it after doing it.
Yeah, I admit I have spanked. I've gone against my own rule twice in 22 years. Ugh.
You say your own rule. Is it ever okay to spank?
Never okay to spank. And one of the things that people will say is, well, what if they're, running into the street? There are other options even for that. What I do is I say, stop. I'm not going to scream because I don't want to blow your ears out, but I slap my hands and I say, stop, ouch. So I startle them so they stop. I just don't think that in this day and age, we need to resort to physical discipline.
Even a light swat on the bum.
Why? Why?
No answer to that. No answer.
Yeah.
There is one benefit of spanking, and that is short-term compliance in the immediate moment. But the evidence continues to mount of the multitude of problems that can happen later on.
Let's turn around to the solutions of this.
Okay.
And you have some positive alternatives to spanking. Yeah. At the top of your list, a strategy that looks at the bigger picture. You say parents need to focus on the big relationship.
Right. So parents need to ask, is this going to help or hurt my connection, my emotional bond with this child? That's the most important thing. So the child spills their milk, or they hit their sibling. To haul off and spank them, you have to think, does that help or hurt? It hurts, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to teach. The root of discipline is teaching and educating, not scaring and creating terror and fear in your child. That hurts the relationship.
Well, there's sort of, I don't want to say there's some benefit that comes from fear, but there might be a little bit of benefit that comes from fear, but do you want to include that in the relationships, though?
I think a better motivation is respect. You want your kids to listen because they love and respect you, and you love and respect them.
This next tip I really like. You encourage parents to prevent whenever possible.
Okay, we've all seen it. The mom or dad at the mall with the kids who are, they're screaming. A lot of the times when parents spank, in my experience and clinical experience, is because parents have pushed the kids too far. The kids are tired, they're hungry, they've been shopping too long, they've pushed them beyond their limits to cope. And so I think a lot of those tense moments where parents are tempted to spank can be prevented by really attending to the child's needs. Don't push them beyond their nap time, or don't make them wait too long between eating. You will get a frustrated, acting out child.
You've got to baby the baby, essentially. I mean, you've got to know their limits.
Right, and that's actually a flaw on the parent's part. Whenever I feel like I want to spank or I want to, it's because I haven't taken action sooner.
It's a way to, reframe that whole thinking. Are you setting them up for success? Are you setting them up for good behavior?
That's why I grocery shop at 11 o'clock at night.
Without children,
Why? why take them? If that is a hot button thing where you tend to get frustrated, kids tend to, don't do it. Like, avoid it, prevent it.
Okay, another thing you say to do is focus on positive things and not just focus on the negative behavior. How does that come into play?
Yeah, so often it's easy to focus on what our kids are doing wrong, but it takes conscious effort to focus on what they're doing right. Nice job sharing. Way to go. You worked so hard on your homework. Wow, you did your jobs without being asked. To notice the positive things and reinforce that.
You say when parents use logical consequences to discipline, they're going to have better success overall. Like what? What's a logical consequence?
Homework, for example. Parents and kids get into the worst power struggles about homework. But what if you say, oh, well, you don't want to do your homework? Okay. You don't get to watch TV, and you'll have to deal with your teacher. And they'll stand for recess, and then life is a better teacher than an angry parent.
So often during the summertime, especially because I think this is when parents get frazzled and we get pushed to the point because the kids are home 24/7 and you don't know what to do with them. Brett on our Facebook page had said a lot of times it's 99% it's the parent not knowing how to cope with it, not knowing how to deal with it. How can we avoid getting to that point when we snap?
Well, I think, people can take a timeout. You can give your kids a timeout, go in the other room, sit in this chair, and parents can take a timeout. I hit that point last week. I was just like, I overload, too much, and I put myself in timeout for a few days in St. George. And I came back, and I'm just a lot better parent. So it's okay to put your kids in timeout, and a good rule of thumb is 1 minute for every year old they are.
So that includes the parents. So you would be there for a really long time, right?
Yeah, well, you get years. You got 3 days. I get days in St. George.
Disappear for a long time. Chances are the house won't burn down.
Yeah.
They're great ideas, and we encourage you to jump on our Facebook page, share your thoughts on this, and Julie's also she's done a whole bunch of research on this. It's compiled great information, including some of that research just out of Canada with a new look at how spanking affects children and adults.
And tips we didn't get to today, so be sure and visit the website article. So impressed with your perspective on this.
Thank you, really important.
Thanks, Julie.